All right, so steps to set up the toolpaths in Torchmate. First thing first, you're gonna go to the Layout tab. In the Layout tab, you're gonna come down to Material Size. For our signs, we're cutting in 3 by 20. So you need to change the width over here to 20, change the height to 3 inches, and hit OK. That'll give you the sign shape to begin with. Then you're going to come up to File, Import, and we're going to import our DXF that we exported from our Onshape drawing. So I've got mine hidden away a little bit. So let me get in here and pull that up. We'll do our test sign. There we go. And this is my Wednesday. Oh, that's my toolpath. I don't want my toolpath. Let me try one more time. I want my test sign. Whoop, where is it? I saved it in a weird place. Where did I save my DXF? This is a fun, exciting adventure. I'm going to pick a little bit on Claire here. Import. Oh, come on. I know you can do this. Click over here, import. I want to insert this as polyarcs. We'll leave all these things alone. And when it comes in, you'll notice that this is a little too big and I'm missing some things here. If you look at it, it doesn't quite fit in there. So I'm going to do some edits. First things first, I'm going to come over here to turn off show fill for a sec. And I'm going to select everything here by dragging and clicking. This is where I need to do a little bit of arranging. So if I come to arrange, I can hit connect path. Connect path is going to kind of run over this whole thing and make sure that everything is connected the way that I think it should be. Once I hit connect path and I hit view show fill, it actually is kind of solved a lot of the issues that I was having before, and all of my letters are showing up correctly. However, my sign is still a little bit too big. You'll notice if I try to resize it, it resizes the letters. I may want to leave the letters as they are. So I'm going to come up to arrange. And that arrange, I can hit break path. And what that does is let's turn off the show fill. What it does is it kind of breaks up the pieces here. So I can actually change the sign, move that sign around a little bit on its own. So what I'm going to do here is resize it. I'm going to bring it in a little bit around, all over the way around. So when I cut this out, it's well within my stock, and I don't have to make any changes to my object to make this work out the way I'd expect it to. All right, so once I've got this kind of set up, if I hit view, show fill, it's actually just going to cut the outside of that sign, which is not what I want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of those things now that I'm happy where this is relative to each other. I'm going to go back to arrange, and I'm going to hit make path, and that's going to lock those things in together again as one piece. And now the program knows what I want to cut out is the sign. I want to keep the sign part and ditch the letters inside. So now I got that all set up, and I've got my geometry figured out. I've got my stock in there. It's kind of all lined up the way I want it to. The next part I'm going to do is go to the machine tab, and I want to change my material. In my material library, I can add a 1/4 inch if it's not already there. Let's say I had 3/8 material. I could change the name over here. Now I just want to be clear, up here is the name only. If I want to change the thickness, this is what the program actually reads. I can name this as default material 0.375, and I can hit add to add that record. But I want a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to select 1/4 inch, make sure that the thickness is what I expected, 0.250. I'm going to hit OK to accept. Now my thickness is set up. I've already imported my DXF. I might change the order of that. I might move file instead of making sure it fits in the stock. I've already gone in here and I've shown my fill, made sure that it's cutting out what I expect it to. I can also come in here and turn on toolpaths only. You'll notice I don't have any toolpaths created, so I need to tell the machine where to cut, what lines to cut. And remember, every line that I cut on any device, especially the CNC plasma cutter, is going to have some kerf, right? That's going to be some material that's removed. So the next part is to go to Machine and set up our toolpaths. Now, if you haven't used this before, you won't have any toolpaths set up. So I'm going to hit Cut Template Wizard to kind of lead me through this process. So this wizard's going to pop up. I'm going to hit Next. In this particular case, I can decide how I want to cut. So male is going to cut around the outside of my lines. Female is going to cut around the inside of my lines and leave the inside, leave those lines there. Online is just going to take that cutter and it's going to run it directly along the line. So in this particular case, because I want to keep the letters the same size as what I've modeled, I'm going to go with female. So the object edge you can see is the outside. The tool path is going to be offset on the inside of that, so that what's left is the object edge that we've modeled. I want to select the right material for this. So I want to make sure that I'm using the 1/4 inch that I associated with it. And I can make this color here. I like to make these kind of odd so I can find them later. I'm going to make it this kind of like teal color. But this color doesn't really matter so much as it's a display thing that can help you visualize it a little better. Hit OK. I'm going to hit Next. I'm going to select a tool for this. We only have one cutting tool. It says oxyacetylene, but we don't have one of those for our particular plasma cutter. You could set up an oxyacetylene torch. Our depth of cut here, we're going to go the full depth of it. And if I try to go too far, it'll give me a no, oh my God, you've gone too far. You can't cut thicker than your material. Do you want to keep the value or set to the maximum? I want to go with maximum. I'm going to hit no, and that's just going to set it to 0.250. You could just type in 0.250 as well if you wanted to. That's totally fine. We're not going to do an inlay. Don't worry about that setting for now. We'll leave with this climb milling. Climb milling for plasma cutting is going to give you a nicer edge. It really just says, do we go around this way or do we go around this way? And for plasma cutting, we usually want to keep it in this default setting here. Toolpath cornering kind of defines how it's going to cut your corners. It actually gives you a little nicer corners if you use the roll corners. Those are a little softer. And you're going to cut a little bit more into the material there. But in this particular case, we're cutting on the inside, so we're going to keep those nice sharp corners. We're not going to do any finishing passes. That's something that you would do with if you were using this in a mill format. If we were using a spinning cutting tool, we're not doing that, so we'll leave those alone. We don't have any bridges. Excuse me. Let me throw that out. Whoop. We don't need any bridges. We want to leave this, just cut this whole thing out. Bridges are something, if we're cutting a really big part out, and in order to keep it from shifting, once we start cutting it out, you can add some bridges in there, basically to hold it in place. And then later, when you're done cutting it out, you can take you can manually cut it out using a cutoff wheel or a grinder. We are going to do a little bit of lead in here. I'm going to do a line. We're going to make this easier on ourselves and do just a small line here. So we're going to do a 0.01 lead in, maybe 0.02, because these are small letters. And then we'll hit next. We're going to call this 1/4 inch. We're going to call it female with lead in. And we'll hit add new. That's going to add that to our default templates that we can use later on if we want to. So when we select this and I come over here to add a toolpath, I'll go to a machine. I can apply toolpath. I'll click female, and that 1/4 inch with lead in that I just created will show up in there. I can hit OK. And there's my toolpath showing up. You can see that kind of magenta color in there. And let's show toolpath only. That toolpath will show up in there. Now, one of the things that I can do at this point is change those lead-ins, and I can change the way that this shows up here. So I can click on any of these and I can change those lead-ins. Some of those lead-ins are in weird places. That one makes sense. This one over here, however, is not really doing what I want it to do. I'm gonna move this lead-in over here. Same thing over here. Come in and change this lead-in. And you just come in and make little edits to your lead-ins. Make sure that they're cutting inside of the way that you want. Bring your lead-ins over here so that your lead-ins actually show up on the part of the tool that you're not, part of the thing that you're not going to be using. It's pretty simple to do. Just come over here and edit your points. Oh, Control Z to fix anything. Click on those, get your lead-ins out. And this is just little edits that you're going to make as you do this. So your lead-ins don't do funny things. Cut into your sign in ways that you don't want. Like this one here. Oh. Maybe leave those connected as they are. But you can come in and make all of those changes as you need to your lead-ins. Make sure that they're cutting the way you expect them to. Don't want your lead-ins to be starting outside of your material into your sign. You want them to be starting inside of your material, and you can make these little changes. This is just a simple thing that you can do. Just look at where this is starting and track those down. Now, one thing I noticed about this one is that these, if you want this to stay as one gap, you're gonna, these are a little bit too, and there's one there. Come in and edit this as well. Double click, click here, drag it in. Oh, and when you're done, you can go back to the mouse. It's a little easier to follow. Double click. Oh, and this is a little bit of painstaking work, but it's one of those things that, you know, if you're making custom signs, you're going to be charging for this time. Oh. Select the mouse wheel to kind of click out. Once you're happy with your lead-ins and you're making sure that you're cutting into your waste as your lead-ins instead of cutting into what you're keeping, and you're okay with that, you will go over here to File, you'll hit Save, and you'll come up with a name for this. So I might call this Frog Kingdom, and I'm going to call this Toolpaths. And this file is all ready to go. The only thing I would need to do is to export it, but I can't export from the student version. So what I would do is upload this file. So I go over to File, I open up my class. I would click the assignment that I want to upload this to, and I haven't finished this assignment yet, but let's say I was going to add it to my personalized sign assignment. Let's go into student view for a sec. And in that module, I could click on the plasma sign. I'm going to hit resubmit assignment, add a file, and I can add that edu file in there. So that was saved on my desktop. So I'll just go to my desktop, select that edu assignment, and upload it. Oh, I can't actually do it in this particular one. I'll make sure that's a setting I can change on my end, but I'll change it so you can actually upload it. And that way, when you arrive, everything's ready to go. The only thing that would need to happen is I would need to open this file type in the, I'd open this file in the edu master version, and I would open that file on my desktop. And I would have to switch to this one. There it is. All of that's in there, and I would come over to export, and I don't have the dongle plugged in, but if I did, I could export it in a toolpaths, and I could go straight to the plasma cutter and get going.